Hello, it's Monday the 26th of January from the MEN newsroom. This is Channel M's Lunchtime News, and these are today's headlines.
Well, it was back in June 2006 that what should have been a day out enjoying the sunshine turned into frantic attempts to rescue this 4-year-old boy, little Sydney Holt.
Clear my name. The sacked nurse Karen Reisman takes her fight to a tribunal.
I've always wanted my job back. I love nursing. I loved working in mental health. I worked in North Manchester all my life.
And appealing for peace and quiet. The bells fall silent in Lee after residents complain.
We were here a lot early before the residents came, so I don't know what the problem is.
Good afternoon. Our top story this lunchtime. A nursery's day out to the park that left a youngster fighting for his life has landed Tameside Council in court this morning. James Webster has more on this for us.
Well, it was back in June 2006 that what should have been a day out enjoying the sunshine turned into frantic attempts to rescue this 4-year-old boy, little Sydney Holt, who was part of a group of 19 who'd been taken from the privately run Clockwork Day Nursery in Ashton to the nearby Stamford Park. When they were there, a member of the public had described how they'd been playing close to the lake on a water slide. Now, near to the lake, there's a 100-foot-long drain, and it was into that overflow that little Sydney had fallen. Inside there's a very steep 50-foot drop, and it was down that drop that Sydney had fallen, gashing his stomach on the branch of a tree. It left him with a 10-inch long wound, so severe some of his internal organs were actually on display, and a couple of inches higher and it would have punctured his heart. As it was, his parents didn't think he would survive, but he did survive. Now, the case here is in two parts. First of all, Tameside Council are appearing in court. They're the council that's responsible for the park where this happened, and that case will revolve around whether enough precautions were in place around this drain to stop people falling into it. The second part of the case involves the Clockwork Day Nursery itself. They've already admitted 2 breaches of health and safety rules, one of which was that they didn't manage to ensure the safety of the youngsters in their care, and also that they didn't manage to carry out a full risk assessment. For that, they've already been fined £21,000 and ordered to pay more than £6,000 in costs. It's against that sentence that they're appealing, and that case will be heard once the one against Tameside Council has been dealt with.
A senior police officer has been forced to resign from Greater Manchester Police after he lied about being on jury service. Detective Inspector Nav Riaz told his bosses he was off work because he was on the jury in a fraud trial, but was spotted watching a tribunal. Mr. Riaz had been called for jury service, but was not needed as one of the final 12 on the panel. But instead of reporting back for duty, he took a further 8 days off work. A man charged after a police officer was run over in Bulletin is due in court today. Dominic McGrath, who's 31 and from Farnworth, is charged with affray, possession of an offensive weapon, wounding and dangerous driving. Police went to the Withens pub in Brightmet after reports of a fight. The officer suffered a fractured wrist, cuts and bruises trying to stop a man from getting away in a car. A man's died and 3 others were injured when their car crashed in Salford. 27-year-old James Gordon of Cranford Road in Flixton was killed when a Citroen Saxo collided with the Central Reservation near Peel Green roundabout on Liverpool Road in the early hours of yesterday. One of the survivors has a fractured pelvis and the other 2 suffered whiplash. A 21-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving. The sacked nurse Karen Reisman began the fight to clear her name today as her employment tribunal got underway in Manchester. The 49-year-old was sacked by Manchester Mental Health Trust in November 2007, and Nina Warhurst is at court where this morning Karen's supporters turned out in force.
What do we want? Karen back! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Karen back! When do we want it? Now!
Thank you very, very much for coming. It does really make a difference to me personally and to how I feel. So thank you, and we'll let you know how it goes as it goes along. All right?
Karen Reisman worked for the NHS in Manchester for 25 years until she was sacked for gross misconduct. She was accused of seriously adversely affecting the reputation of the trust by voicing concerns to the media about psychiatric services being transferred outside of the NHS, and now she wants to be vindicated.
I'm really, really pleased to be here today, to be able to go to court. I've always believed I was unfairly dismissed, and to finally get my chance to go to court and to put that case, I'm really pleased that we're here today.
And what about the support that people have shown this morning?
I am still, 18 months after being suspended, getting an incredible amount of support. My email box is blocked up constantly and I'm having to delete them with messages of support on text messages. We had a social on Friday night that again was very, very well attended, and I am overwhelmed, and it has kept me going, and would like to thank everybody who supported me over the last 18 months.
What would be the perfect outcome for you?
I've always wanted my job back. I love nursing. I loved working in mental health. I worked in North Manchester all my life. I would love to have that job back.
OK, thanks, Karen. Well, of course, the NHS will be putting their case across first this morning. We will, of course, bring you a roundup of the day's events at 5 o'clock.
Meanwhile, a head teacher from Manchester who was found guilty of professional misconduct has said she won't go back to teaching. Dame Jean Else had been credited with turning around Whalley Range High School for girls. The disciplinary committee said she could teach again, but not hold a senior position. Jean Else has been speaking exclusively to the Manchester Evening News and Channel M. You can catch that interview on Channel M News from 5 o'clock this evening. Bolton police are hunting a sex attacker who struck up a conversation with a 23-year-old woman before assaulting her early on Saturday morning. It happened as she walked from Bradshaw Gate near a block of flats on Clive Street. Have you ever fancied yourself as a budding filmmaker? Well, some lucky youngsters from St George's School in Salford have been working with top industry professionals and looking at the issue of gang culture in Greater Manchester.
Action!
Well, I've learnt how to work together, and I've learnt about the process of filming, because I wouldn't have had a clue before. And we've learnt that it's not just the acting that matters, it's about the camera work, so I've learnt a lot.
The project has been running now for 5 years, and it's all about bringing creativity into education and the community. Different way of learning, not everybody's academic. And we find when we educate them to what the jobs are available behind the camera and what kind of career you can have.
It's gone through numerous stages, really. Louis, the writer, came in at first, and they thought about their own ideas, what they would like to do for a film. Obviously, it's got a knife culture, so they thought that knife culture was more what they wanted to do. With us having some Polish girls in the drama class and English, they decided to use that and make it quite topical about how people feel about immigration in this country. So they've used that, 2 girl gangs. They've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think they've learnt a lot about each other as well. They're actually closer friends.
The boss of troubled JJB Sports has ordered the sale of the company's 2 corporate helicopters in a bid to shave £1 million off its overheads. One's been offloaded to a Middle Eastern buyer for a cool £4 million, and the other is still on the market. The decision's been made by Sir David Jones, who began an immediate review of JJB when he took over as chairman earlier this month. 2,500 steel jobs have been axed this morning. The widely anticipated announcement came from steel giant Chorus, which said it was cutting another 1,000 jobs from its worldwide workforce. The company, now owned by Indian firm Tata, broke the grim news in a series of meetings at plants across the UK. Barclays shares have gone up more than 25% in value after the bank's under-pressure bosses wrote an open letter to help reassure investors. The bank's shares have been tumbling for the past fortnight and last week lost almost half their value. The chairman and chief executive have said Barclays won't need to go to the government for financial assistance. Sport with Sam coming up in just a moment, but first, how do you keep fit? Some people go to great lengths by running marathons, and a fitness enthusiast from Oldham is doing 4 of them, all in different ways.
Today I'm doing a rowathon for Christie's, and that is a marathon distance which is 26 miles, 42 kilometres on the row machine. I'm doing 4 marathons in 4 months in 4 different ways. January, which is today, I'm doing a row on the row machine. I'm doing a bike, maybe a double bike in February, and in March I'm doing on the cross-training machine marathon distance, and then in April is my finale, the London Marathon. Christie's, yeah, a good friend of mine who I train with, his mum was diagnosed and she's having treatment there. and I got into the London Marathon through the ballot, and I was wondering who to run for and what to do it for. And then, as my friend's mum was very ill, I thought, well, why not? I think they're all going to be, pretty good to train for, and just to keep, general fitness, and just to keep the spirits alive, and hopefully raise a whole lot of money for Christie's.
Time for sport now with a man who, legend has it, manages 4 marathons in his own lunchtime. It's Sam.
Thank you very much, Ben. Well, the Sale Sharks have confirmed that head coach Kingsley Jones will take over Philippe Saint-André's role as the club's director of rugby with immediate effect. Saint-André will remain with the club in a senior coaching role after he was announced as Toulon's new director of sport for next season. We'll have more on that in our early evening news. Well, over to football, and Robinho has returned. The Brazilian flew back to Manchester late last night after he left the club's training camp in Tenerife last week. He said he was dealing with a family matter back home in Brazil. The Manchester City manager Mark Hughes will sit down with the player for talks today, where he's also expected to be fined around £200,000. And the Blues are back in the hunt for the Blackburn striker Roque Santa Cruz. Hughes is planning one final bid for the Paraguayan and is also expected to make an offer for the Newcastle goalkeeper Shay Given. Well, the 5th round draw of the FA Cup was yesterday, and it sees Manchester United face either Nottingham Forest or, once again, Derby County. Matches are to be played on the weekend of the 13th or 14th of February. Well, staying with the Reds, and United's game against Everton, scheduled for a week today, has now been moved to this Saturday with a 5:30 kick-off because of Everton's replay with Liverpool in the FA Cup. And Wigan have completed the signing of Crystal Palace midfielder Ben Watson. The 23-year-old has signed for £2 million. And there was a derby match in League One over the weekend. Oldham defeated rivals Stockport County 3-1 at Boundary Park. Danny Whittaker scored after only 3 minutes. Lee Hughes grabbed his 15th goal of the season. Then Ollie Johnson gave Stockport some hope before Chris Taylor killed off his opponents in the 55th minute. Oldham are now 3rd in the league, while Stockport slipped to 8th. And Oldham manager John Sheridan was clearly pleased with his side's performance as they keep the pressure on the top 2.
Pleasing thing is we won the game and got the 3 points which we needed, and but our performance after last week we played very well, and I thought we dominated the game, and we should have won the game by more. But the most pleasing thing is we got 3 points from the game. We know where we stand budget-wise and who we can bring in and what we can afford. So I'm comfortable with what we've got at the moment. But obviously, I look at the situation if we get 1 or 2 injuries. But at this moment in time, everyone's fit, and hopefully we'll keep fit, and I'll be comfortable with what I've got. I think we're overachieving at the moment, if you want the truth. But we're in a great position, and we've just got to carry on winning games. It's important we just concentrate on ourselves and try and win as many games as possible. If we do that, we'll see where it takes us, and hopefully it'll get us in a good position at the end of the season.
Well, over to boxing, and Ricky Hatton's fight with Manny Pacquiao is 99% back on. The Filipino finally signed the contract for the fight, scheduled for May, and the Hitman's lawyer Gareth Williams is now waiting for a copy of the contract for Hatton to sign before officially confirming the fight in Las Vegas. And in basketball, the Manchester Magic beat Coventry 80-54. Brandon Kimbrough top scored with 27 points. And in ice hockey, the Manchester Phoenix defeated the Cardiff Devils 2-0 last night to end a 5-game losing streak. Finally, Andy Murray has been knocked out of the Australian Open, playing in a 30-degree heat. Murray lost in 5 sets to Spain's Fernando Verdasco, ending all hopes of winning his first Grand Slam. Well, that's all the sport from me for now. Join me again later on this evening.
Thanks very much, Sam. And that's with Andy Crane from 5 o'clock tonight. Still ahead on the lunchtime news, Gung Hei Fat Choi. Manchester celebrates the Chinese New Year.
And you know the consequence of give me a red packet.
Oh, well, of course, I guess we're supposed to be giving you a red envelope. That's a tradition, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Why do they do that? Why do you do that?
It's just for the grown-ups, the married one especially, to give it to the children or when you're single. So it's quite embarrassing when you're over 20s or 30s, still single.
And you're still getting red envelopes.
Avoid New Year.
Welcome back to Channel M's Lunchtime News. We're here every day between 12 and 1 with all Greater Manchester's headlines. And you can always check out our reports online at channelm.co.uk. On there right now, the gas power station for Carrington that will create 600 jobs, and the mum who delivered her own baby in a moving car. That's all at channelm.co.uk. Let's take another look at our top story this lunchtime. A nursery's day out to Stamford Park in Ashton-under-Lyne that left a youngster fighting for his life has landed Tameside Council in court this morning. James Webster has more on this for us.
Well, it was back in June 2006 that what should have been a day out enjoying the sunshine turned into frantic attempts to rescue this 4-year-old boy, little Sydney Holt, who was part of a group of 19 who'd been taken from the privately run Clockwork Day nursery in Ashton to the nearby Stamford Park. When they were there, a member of the public had described how they'd been playing close to the lake on a water slide. Now, near to the lake, there's a 100-foot-long drain, and it was into that overflow that little Sydney had fallen. Inside there's a very steep 50-foot drop, and it was down that drop that Sydney had fallen, gashing his stomach on the branch of a tree. It left him with a 10-inch long wound, so severe some of his internal organs were actually on display, and a couple of inches higher and it would have punctured his heart. As it was, his parents didn't think he would survive, but he did survive. Now, the case here is in two parts. First of all, Tameside Council are appearing in court. They're the council that's responsible for the park where this happened, and that case will revolve around whether enough precautions were in place around this drain to stop people falling into it. The second part of the case involves the Clockwork Day nursery itself. They've already admitted 2 breaches of health and safety rules, one of which was that they didn't manage to ensure the safety of the youngsters in their care, and also that they didn't manage to carry out a full risk assessment. For that, they've already been fined £21,000 and ordered to pay more than £6,000 in costs. It's against that sentence that they're appealing, and that case will be heard once the one against Tameside Council has been dealt with.
Thank you, James. Now, there's a right old ding-dong happening in Lee, where residents have been sounding off over bell ringing at a church. Nina Warhurst has more.
It's 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and if you listen, the church bells are ringing at St Mary the Virgin in Lee, and they sound pretty tuneful, considering the church bell ringers are only allowed to rehearse for 1 hour a week.
And that's because residents around St Mary's sent a petition to the council saying the practice, which happened every Monday night for up to 2 hours, went on for too long. Wigan Council found the ringing was a nuisance and served a noise abatement order, and the congregation says that's not fair.
We were here a lot early before the residents came, so I don't know what the problem is.
I think it's disgraceful because people have to learn to ring bells, and it would be a very sad time if bells weren't ringing around the town. You know, and it brings comfort to a lot of people who can't get to church.
If you buy a house near a church, you expect there to be noise.
And just a few metres away from St Mary's is this block of flats where residents have told us that every single Monday evening was ruined by the bell ringing, and the council says that it wasn't just residents here who were unhappy. In fact, they received so many complaints that they had no choice but to perform a nuisance test.
It was for an hour and a half, and people are trying to get the children to sleep, and there's people with tinnitus who say their heads are ringing for days after. You can't watch television, you can't read.
But people would say if you move in next to a church, you've got to expect noise like that.
Well, yeah,
yes.
I mean, that's it. But do you come and inspect a flat at 7:30 at night when they start?
Isn't it a bit miserable, though? Isn't it something that brings a community together and everybody enjoys?
It's not very good. The sound they make isn't very good. I don't think a child could do it, couldn't they? Make a better noise.
So the abatement order is music to residents' ears, but the persistent peelers say while they've agreed to temporarily reduce their practice to 1 hour a week, they're still in negotiations with the Archdeacon and the council and are hoping they'll eventually receive a ringing endorsement. Nina Warhurst, Channel M News.
Gung Hei Fat Choi, or Happy New Year. The Chinese New Year starts today, and it's the Year of the Ox. On Channel M Breakfast this morning, Samantha Ho from the Federation of Chinese Associations of Manchester told us a little about the traditions that go with it.
Today we have a cultural show from the province, the actual from province called Yunnan, which is southwest part of China. This is the first event of our Chinese New Year celebration. Today is the New Year's Eve of Chinese Lunar Calendar, which is the Chinese New Year. Tomorrow is the Chinese New Year's Day. next Sunday, we have a celebration like we always have in Chinatown, Manchester, and Albert Square, where they have a 175 feet long dragon parade around China. There will be a lot of stores and fairgrounds, fireworks displayed all day in Chinatown and Albert Square.
Well, that was a little taster of a special event going on at the Opera House in Manchester over the weekend. As I mentioned on Channel M Breakfast this morning, Samantha Ho from the Federation of Chinese Associations of Manchester told us a little about the traditions of Chinese New Year.
Gong hei fat choi.
Yes. Gong hei fat choi.
Oh, is that what you do?
Well, just a gesture.
Am I right thinking, is it right hand into left? With the traditional way?
As long as you do with your heart.
Oh, OK, do it with your heart. Gong hei fat choi, Samantha,
Yes.
and welcome to the breakfast show.
And you know the consequence of give me a red packet.
Oh, well, of course, I guess we're supposed to be giving you a red envelope. That's a tradition, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Why do they do that? Why do you do that?
It's just for the grown-ups, the married one especially, to give it to the children or when you're single. So it's quite embarrassing when you're over 20s or 30s, still single.
And you're still getting red envelopes.
Avoid New Year.
It's quite embarrassing.
Yes.
So why does Chinese New Year fall around this time?
It's according to the lunar calendar, which is a calendar according to the movement of the moon. What we're using now is a Gregorian calendar. So it seems like it's a bit late, but actually it's not, because it's based on the movement of the moon.
Well, it's been quite a grey morning, so let's see if there's any chance of it brightening up. Byron's got the weather for us.
Gung hei fat choi. Today is Chinese New Year. It's the year of the ox, but, well, if you're a water baby, then this could be your week, because it's going to be rather soggy for the next few days, particularly today, especially to the west of the region, as we can see from Accrington down to Wigan and across to Preston. Lows and averaging about 6 degrees Celsius. More to the east of the region, you can see temperatures raising ever so slightly to 7. Should stay a little bit drier throughout the day. Starting off this morning, it's been OK. There's been a few scattered showers, nothing really to get you soaked to the bone. Hopefully the weather should stave off a little bit, keeping us fairly dry throughout the afternoon. Expect some showers this evening. You may want to take your pack-a-mac for your way home for work, but let's look ahead at the week in front of us, and we'll start off with Tuesday. Soggy day again, I'm afraid. High of 7, low of 1. Wednesday should be drier. Thursday, dry again, hopefully with a high of 8. But Friday, wet and miserable again. Hey, it's Manchester. It's OK.
You're watching Channel M's Lunchtime News. Our main headlines this afternoon. A nursery's day out to the park that left a youngster fighting for his life has landed Tameside Council in court this morning. A senior police officer has been forced to resign from Greater Manchester Police after he lied about being on jury service. Detective Inspector Nav Riaz told his bosses he was off work because he was on the jury in a fraud trial, when in fact he wasn't. And the sacked nurse Karen Reisman began the fight to clear her name today as her employment tribunal got underway in Manchester. We'll have more on those stories in our early evening news later, when we'll also have an exclusive interview with Dame Jean Else, the former head of Whalley Range High for Girls, who was found guilty of misconduct. That's with Andy Crane from 5, but from me and the rest of the Lunchtime team, thanks for watching. Have a very good afternoon. Goodbye for now.